All right, today I have with me Carlos, and Carlos and I met through a Facebook group, a men's group. You can elaborate on that after we get started here, but we had a quick discussion over the phone, and he's got some incredible stories he can share along his journey. I don't know if we'll touch everything, but we'll see where we go from here. Carlos, I'm going to open it up to you, and you could just begin by sharing uh let's just start with what you're doing right now is like a profession and how you're helping people, and then we can go into how you got to be in that situation.
Sure, John. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you for, first of all, creating this platform and inviting me to come speak and share my story on this platform. It really means a lot to me because we're going to get into it, but I do have a mission here, and I want to get my word and my work out to people that need it. And I think podcasting and things like that is great. So thank you for having me here. Thank you for creating this platform. I really do appreciate it. Um, what am I doing now, or what am I doing right now? So that is a really good question. I am a coach. Uh, uh, I help. Well, I first started coaching men, right? I first started coaching men, which I still do coach men, but I brought in my coaching to help people get to their vision in life. So I consider myself a visionary coach, right? And that could be in their relationships, that can be in something they see for themselves in the future. But basically, it's taking you from where you are now to where you want to be, or where you see your future self at, right? And that's working out all those things in the gray area, right? So that may be mental blocks, that may be roadblocks, that may be limiting beliefs, and then creating actionable steps and working on those daily, and holding you accountable to those. So that is the work I'm doing now. That is the work I'm doing now as a coach. But majority of that is coaching men. Um, and if I could get a little bit into how I got into coaching, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, and this goes back, so it goes back into to the background of myself, is that I grew up in a house where my parents separated, right? My parents separated when I was 13, 14 years old. And my father, let's just say he wasn't the best uh, role model, right? He wasn't the best father figure. He wasn't the best male role model growing up. And now that I reflect back on it, it's because he had the same thing growing up with his father, right? So he was doing exactly what his father had done to him. And that had happened in our relationship as well too, and with my mom and with my brothers and sisters there. And so eventually apart. Eventually they split apart, and it was a really critical time in my life. I was going into my teenage years, and I was looking for guidance. I was looking for acceptance. I was looking for that male role model in my life. And when my parents split, my dad moved out of state. He moved somewhere else. He moved to New York, and we lived in Virginia. And he would only come around every once in a while. And so I found that male guidance in other people, in the streets, basically, with friends and some bad influences. And I started down the same road. Um, I started on this road with drugs, alcohol, and addiction at a very young age. And just to back it up a little bit, my dad was in that role as well too. He was abusive mentally and physically, but he was also alcoholic, and he had a lot of other vices that he was dealing with in his life. So I found myself going into that same road in an early age, which brought me into um, getting into a lot of trouble in my teens and in my 20s, which brought me into incarceration. I was in and out of incarceration from my mid-teens until my 20s. So that was a very dark time of my life. It was one of those times where I hit rock bottom. And as the saying goes, when you hit rock bottom, make sure you fall on your back, because the only way to go is up, right?
Mhm.
And I'm not saying it was a straight trajectory up, but it was a lot of ups and downs after that. It was a lot of ups and downs. I just got tired of that lifestyle. I realized after the last stint of being incarcerated, like this is not who I want to be, right? I knew the man that I did not want to, right? And so I started taking small steps into a direction of where I wanted to be. I didn't have an idea, but I knew where I didn't want to be. And I think that's very important, is knowing where you don't want to be, because if you don't step in that direction, then you're stepping in somewhere else, you know? And I didn't have that clarity at that time, but I was stepping away from the person I didn't want to be at that time. And like I said, it was a lot of ups and downs, but it was like a pie graph, hills and valleys, hills and valleys. And eventually I made it, and I'm still there. I think I am definitely still on the journey. Um, but it's a constant journey of just definitely self-improvement, and personal development. And so in that journey, um, well, let me get back to the original question is, like, what am I doing now? Like, I'm a men's coach. So in this journey, uh, I did not know how to be a man or a father and husband. And I was in my first marriage relationship, and that ended badly because I didn't know how to be a man, a father, and a husband. No one gave me the manual, so I just went off what I knew, right? And that didn't work out. That relationship ended very badly, and that was my first divorce. And then, I went into other relationships after that, and those usually ended with the other person saying, "Hey, I'm out of here. I can't take this anymore," right? And then so I met my wife now, and this time kids were involved, children were involved, and we got married. And I saw the same thing happen again. It's like, the same things that were happening in my past relationships and my past marriage were coming up. And this time there was children involved and kids involved. And up until this point, I was pointing it externally, I'm like, man, it's her fault. It's because we live, or it's because you're like this way. But then when I really started reflecting on what was happening, I started to see the common denominator in all of those relationships was me. And so this is when I really went in and started reflecting and saying, man, I really need to work on myself. I really need to turn inward, because it's not outward. So this is when I started doing a lot of work on myself, a lot of soul searching on how to be a man, how to be a husband, and how to be a father, which is joining groups, men's groups, which is hiring a coach, going into therapy. And in this journey of finding myself as a man, a father, and a husband, um, in this journey, I noticed that, other people were asking and saying, Carlos, they were seeing my evolution, and they were reaching out for help. They were asking for help. And so I started reaching and helping these other men, these other people. And I started to realize, like, this is awesome. This is something that I really feel passionate about, is helping other people and helping other men that have been in the same situation that I've been in. And so this is where I got involved in starting to coach men, and helping men become better fathers and become better husbands.
Yeah. Uh,
And that's where I am now.
that
Mhm.
great. I appreciate sharing all that. I don't want to say it's funny, but not in the laughing kind of matter, that
Mhm.
how people see how you change, that they want to make a change for themselves too, in a
Mhm.
good way. So, you know, I appreciate you sharing everything and how you are helping other men. Are you helping women too, or is it just men?
Yeah, so I kind of evolved my coaching, right? So I expanded. Like I said, I'm a visionary coach, and so that I do coach women as well too. But there is a special place there just for men, because I'm there's a special place there. But I evolved my coaching business into helping men and women.
Yeah. So I'm going to start off with a question on that, because you say vision, right?
Hmm.
I have visions of my life, and I mean, a lot of other people have visions, hopefully, right? So,
Hmm.
is there the way I can look at this is sometimes people can correlate manifesting along with vision. Is there something there that you would say yes or no to? And yeah, I'm just curious to see if there's an argument, if they're different or they kind of work together.
Manifesting, and vision. I think, definitely everything starts internally first, right? Whatever that is if it's a vision or if it's a dream or if it's that particular, uh, that vision of yourself in the future, everything starts internally first. So it manifests with a desire. It
Mhm.
manifests with something that you see internally first. And then that's when it starts. What happens is a lot of people manifest this, right? They think about it and they have this desire, but they never act on it. And that's where the block comes, because of fear, because of doubt, because of limiting beliefs. So that thing stays inside of you, that and you never get to be that person that you've always wanted to be because of that. So I would say that everything does start with a manifestation of something that you see yourself doing, or you see your future self, or something where you see yourself more than where you are now, right? It definitely starts internally. And then taking the action and taking that next step forward, vision, is where things start coming into reality. That means taking it from internally, and maybe the first step is writing it down on a piece of paper, or writing it down, or telling somebody about it, and then making the plan out, and then taking a step towards that. I hope that answers your question there.
It does. It does. So
Uh,
they kind of
mhm.
work together. They intertwine in a way.
Yes, yes. I think
Okay.
they definitely work together. I think definitely there's a sequence there, there's a sequence there.
I agree with you. I wanted to know what your answer was on that.
Mhm.
Because I'm just curious. Do you suggest like vision boards and stuff like that too? Then, 'cause
Yeah, I definitely suggest vision boards. I think I'm very big on vision, and something that I do. It's interesting you mentioned that. Is I use two types of vision. So you can have a vision board, which is
Mhm.
excellent. Create a board and put all the pictures on there. But we all have these things here, cell
Right.
phones, right? So I have an album here. I have an album here on my phone of exactly who I want to be, where I want to live, even physically, how I want to look like in the next 5 years, right? So I basically, like, I have a picture of the body that I want. My head's photoshopped on top of it, right? I have a picture of the house that I want to build with my wife. We took a picture in front of it, so I have it there. So basically, you get the idea. I have the vision board on this device here. So every day I would wake up. I even have what I want my bank account to look like. So I took a picture of my savings account. I edited the numbers on there, what I wanted to look like in the next 5 years, and I put that there, and I look at that every morning. So I scroll through these 10 photos every morning and before I go to sleep, just to get that vision in my subconscious mind, you know? And so yes, I think vision boards, or somewhere where you can actually see what you want to accomplish, is very important, to get it out of your mind, to actually physically see that with your eyes. Because like they say, your mind doesn't know the difference between that, if it's reality or not. So if you're seeing that all the time, you're actually your subconscious saying that you already have this. You already have this thing that you're visioning. And then once that happens, those subconscious steps just start coming. You don't even think about it sometimes.
Yeah. And do you suggest expressing your vision like emotionally? Like say I have $1 million and like shout it out, be happy about it and feel it.
um you know i I don't say like I have, right? I like
Mhm.
using I am, or I
Okay.
am certain statements, right? Like, I am certain that I will have this amount of money in my bank account, right? I am certain that my physical fitness and my nutrition and everything will be at this point in my life at this time, right? Or I am healthy, or I am wealthy, or I am abundant. But I like using I am, or I am certain, especially when it tends to be in the future. So um that's what works for me.
Mhm.
Uh, maybe I have statements as well too, but yeah, I am certain statements.
Okay. All right, cool. And I just wanted to go back a little bit on your journey then.
Sure.
So you grew up with not much of a father male figure around in
Mhm.
certain period of your life there. How important do you think, or how important do you feel that male figure or father being around you or another young child is for that kid?
Um, Geez, I think that's so important. I think we play such a big role in the family dynamics, I think it's super important that we be there present, not just be there, not just show up every day and feel like we're just there to provide and then that's it,
Mhm.
but actually be present in our kids' lives and our family life and the lives of our family, you know, um, because I know how it is not to have that there and how the pain and the suffering that causes not having that male role model there. And so I think, on both ends, for sure, your son, if you have a son, is definitely he's gonna mimic you as a man. He's gonna see what a man, a husband, and a father is gonna be by the way you treat other people, by the way you treat your wife, your spouse, and so he's gonna learn from you. And if he doesn't have that guidance, he's gonna get that from somewhere else, or he's gonna be guessing a lot of times for his whole life, right? Which is where I was. And as far as, your daughter, looking up at you or being an influence in their life. I think that's very important because you are the most important man in their life. And she's going to base all her relationships with men on you,
Mhm.
right? And that's super important for me to make sure that the man or her future relationships that that they are some things that are going to be meaningful to her, right? That there are going to be relationships that I know that she wants, that she's this and she's going to base those relationships off of me. So that is a huge responsibility for me to live up to those expectations, who she's going to end up with, so um I think it's super important for us to be there present with our kids and to be the best version of ourselves, for our family. Yes.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. I do have two kids, one
Mhm.
boy, one girl, and I see them at that age now where they are looking at me and whoever else around, and mimicking whatever it is I do or they do, these other people, right? Um, yeah, so I agree. I also want to say that I feel like the man is more like the one that's willing to let the kids figure out things on themselves for themselves in a way, right? Whereas I feel like a mother is more nurturing and, protector, don't get hurt and stuff. And the dad or whatever, is like, go ahead and, play, get dirty and, some scars and stuff. Um, that's what I see. Because then it kind of develops those kids into being independent and knowing the lessons of trying something new. And this is what happens instead of, I could tell you so many times not to do it. You're still going to do it until something
Mhm.
happens to you. You know what I mean? That's just my thoughts on that.
Mhm.
So how much would you have thought, or how much do you think your life could have been different, provided that your dad or somebody else close to you was around you?
You know what? That's a tough question because I learned to not look back at what happened to me in regret.
Mhm.
At one point I was, I'm like, man, I'm regretting, like, why me? Especially when you're going through that, especially when you're sitting in a jail cell, it's like, why me? Right? Why is this happening to me? You know? Um, and instead of regretting, I reflect now. I reflect instead of regret. So I look at all of those things as something that has made me who I am now, right? Like this was meant to be. There, everything happens for a reason, right? And those things happened in my life because I was meant for something more. It was shaping me into who I am now. If I could just, use this analogy. I felt like all those obstacles, all those challenges in my life, right? It was like a blacksmith with a raw chunk of metal, and all those challenges and obstacles in my life was like this blacksmith just constantly hitting this raw piece of metal with a mallet, right? Until it became a sword, you know? And so it's very hard to say like what could have been, what could have been if my dad was around. But I kind of like to reframe that as like those things were meant to be to shape me into this person I am right now.
Yeah. Now, so how did you become to reflect upon it instead of I'm sorry, I forget the word you used. Uh
Instead of regretting.
right, yeah, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, it took a lot of internal work, you know. I was one that I was always like, I should have did this. Why
Mhm.
didn't I do that? I was shooting all over myself and just regret, like, regret that I didn't do this, or regret. I, I, I was in that phase where I was regretting and shooting all over myself. But once I realized that those things in the past, I can't do anything about. Like I do have control of who I was born, what family I was born into, what father I had. I didn't have any control of that. You know, I don't have control of the things that had happened to me in the past anymore. Those things are in the past, right? So one or two things I can do. I can either continue dwelling on them and let them take real estate in my head, and constantly just have these regrets and these bad emotional thoughts because of these things, and have that holding me back in my life. Or I can use those as stepping stones, and just really reflecting on and looking at the lesson at those particular things in my life, and use that to excel myself in life. So that was the turning point when I realized that I couldn't control any of that stuff. Like I can reflect on it, but I can't go back and change the past. I can't change that time. I don't have that time machine. So once I realized that through a lot of internal reflection, a lot of personal development, knowing just this statement, like, what do you have control of, right? That stoic statement. What do you have control of? When that finally sunk in, that was the turning point.
Yeah, for me, you can only control yourself, right? You can't really control other people or anything. And
Yeah.
that goes along with change. You can only change yourself, it's up to whoever if they want to decide to change it, good or bad. Um,
Mm.
so with that being said too, you went through a lot of relationship issues and now you have a wife and you're on a journey as you've been your whole life and continuing to grow. How does your wife currently now, if this is okay to answer, feel about you exploring becoming a better father and a husband and stuff?
Um, you know, at first, I'm going to be honest with you. At first, she was very skeptical. I
Hmm.
started working on myself as there were points where, you make promises, you say, I'm going to work on myself. Yeah. When you start realizing that it is you tend to do certain things, you make little tweaks here and there. All right, I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to stop doing this and I'm going to stop doing that. But then you come back to it, or it's the on and off game, the yo-yo effect. And so they don't start taking you seriously on this journey of yours. She was like a spectator, like he's just going to go back to the old Carlos again. We're going to get separated and probably end up in a divorce, right?
Hmm.
So in the beginning, it was like she was very skeptical of it. She didn't know if this change was permanent, to be honest with you. But as time went on and the changes that I made really stuck, they were just very consistent. I think that's very key, is like when you decide to do something, your word doesn't mean nothing if those actions behind it don't stick, right? If you don't continue work on those actions and taking those steps daily, like the saying goes, action speaks louder than words. If I tell her I'm going to be working on myself to be a better husband and father, but those actionable steps don't align with what I'm saying, those words don't mean anything, right? So once I started taking those steps every single day and just working on those, even on those hard days, even when I failed, even when I would mess up but come back and say sorry and make amends and acknowledge my wrongdoings and my shortcomings, and seeing that consistent work, day after day, month after month, year after year, she finally accepted that this is the new me. This is me, because I started to believe that was me. I started to look in the mirror and like, this is the real me right here. This is who I authentically am when I'm sober, when I'm not drinking, when I don't have those other on me, and I'm dealing with the problems that I need to deal with. That person I'm looking in the mirror, I accepted that guy and all of his flaws, on the good and bad days. And I think once I started accepting that this is the me, this is who I am, then I and consistently showing up as that person every single day, it started to my wife started to accept this new person, this new me. And this was just recently. It was about 2 years ago, to be honest with you. So it hasn't been I've been working on it for years before that. My wife and I have been together for 13 years, right? But up until the 11-year mark, 2 years ago, up until the 11-year mark,
Mhm.
it was a very rocky relationship. It was on and off, very rocky relationship, right? We did not get officially married. We didn't have a wedding or anything like that. We were just together. We had kids. We didn't officially get married for those first 11 years. March of 2021, she finally accepted that, like, this is really him. I can love this guy. I love this guy, right? I love this new Carlos. And we officially got married after 11 years. It took 11 years of work, of just, coming back and forth and realizing and finding myself to really, I wouldn't say convince her, but to say like, hey, this is the guy I really want to marry, is this guy right now. And because of the work that I put in, she had the confidence enough to actually say, yeah, let's go ahead and let's get married. Let's make it official. And that was just 2 years ago. And we've been together for 13 years. So, yeah, she's, she, she's been the rock, she's the glue that holds this family together for sure.
Yeah, and I appreciate your honesty and feedback there. It sounds like you showed up, right? It might have taken you a long time, or and maybe it took you a while to even start. But I'm sure throughout those 11 years, you were trying to figure things out, and it took some time. And you showing up, stepping up, she probably got to see that, right? And so, like you said, this is the real Carlos. I mean, this is who
Mhm.
he's supposed to be. And it took all that pounding on that stone, whatever you want to call it, right, to come out shiny and sharp sword.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what it sounds like. And you got married, and sounds like you got a good journey going on now, right now.
yeah.
So
Don't get me wrong, right? Like that sword is still being pounded on,
of
like
course, it
yeah,
never
it
ends.
it gets dull every once in a while, I'm cutting through the brush and it gets dull. I need to sharpen it every once in a while, and
Sure.
but those are the daily reminders, and that's healthy now. Those things are healthy. Those daily reminders, or those little the pound on that raw piece of metal is not as hard as it was before. It's just, I'm just sharpening it now, every once in a while when it gets dull. But I think that's very healthy, because I'm using that sword, I'm using the tools, and we just need to keep on sharpening them. We need to keep on using them, and that's showing up every day. That's not turning inward and becoming a block of ice every day, when things start to get hard. That's not turning into vices when life starts getting tough and hard, and turning into those vices, to numb the pain. That's turning into the pain, that's turning into the fear when it does come up, and dealing things, that's what keeps that sword sharp.
Right. And having that men's group or group, whatever you want to call it, that you can turn to, right? And they can back you up. I got you, whatever, I mean, you keep going, you got this. Um, that is very important. So whether, it's the group that you have, or a group that you are in, or other people are involved, it's staying connected with that community to support you, and you can also support the others too when they fall short sometimes. It's very important. So we'll just dive into that real quick. So you have a coaching business and stuff. So how would somebody connect with you to work with you and get to know more of what you do to help others with their vision or whatever else it is?
Yeah, sure. So first, I would like to I have a website where you can see all the projects and things that I'm working on from the website. So my website is um, everythingisinternalwork.com, right? Because
Mhm.
everything you want externally, everything, that health goal, that job, that business, that relationship you want, everything starts internally first. And I truly believe that we need to start working on ourselves internally to get anything we want externally. So that's the name of my website, right? Everythingisinternalwork.com. Um, and from there, you'll be able to see my Instagram page, my Facebook page, and the two groups that I host, right? So I want to touch on these two groups because they're free groups and there's a lot of value and there's a lot of work that goes on in these groups. So I have one group is a men's group. It's called Men United to Become Better Fathers and Husbands. And like you said, we need this community to be able to lean on each other, to be able to get the collective wisdom of other men, right? And I think in a community, what's so great about it is that you have men or you have people that are like ahead of you in life, right? That they can mentor you. Then you have people are exactly at the same level in life as you, and you guys are working together to be better, right? You guys are like partners together. And then you have people that are just starting off, that are just on their journey, or where you were before, that you can mentor. And that's what's so great about this community, is because that's all there, right? So in this community, we have several Zoom calls a week where we go in and we're able to lean on each other to talk about, whatever issues are going on. It's a safe space where men can talk about things that men deal with on a daily basis, or just somewhere to lean on somebody else to know that we are not alone in this journey, that other men are dealing with these things as well, and I think that's very important to understand, is that we are not alone. I know when I was going through my divorce and these hard times, I didn't want to talk to anybody about that because I felt shameful, to be honest with you. I felt like a failure, to talk about that. And so I held it within, and that just ate me up. That took real estate in my head, and it was weighing heavy on me. um, so this is a safe space for people and men to get together and talk and lean on each other and get collective wisdom from each other. And like the saying goes, the lone wolf is weak, he dies, right? And the wolf is strong because of the pack. And this group is the pack right here, and together we're stronger. um, and I also have another group. It's called the Accountability Mastermind, right? And this is a fairly new group. And the reason why I opened it is because a lot of times people set goals for themselves. I'm seeing this a lot in my coaching. People have these desires. They want to accomplish these things. They want to do these things in their lives. They want to get to that person who they see in the future. And I see two things that are lacking. One is discipline, and one is the accountability, right? And so I opened up this accountability group to help people get a more accountability for what they want in their life, for what they want to accomplish in their life, right? And it's a very active group. We have what's called a 7-day challenge every single week that starts on a Monday and ends on a Sunday, right? And so what happens in the 7-day challenge is that basically, if you want in, it's a voluntary thing. So you want in, an announcement goes out saying, hey, we're starting the 7-day challenge. If you want in, comment below. And it usually goes out on a Friday. I just put it out right before we jumped on this podcast. And you basically say, hey, I want in, and you state what you want personally to accomplish for the next 7 days. That could be a personal goal, it could be a health goal, it could be a business goal, and it could be something that you want to accomplish, a bigger goal that may be something you foresee in the next 6 months or a month from now. But we break it down into 7 days with daily actionable steps. So you volunteer to jump into the 7 day challenge. I then invite you into a private WhatsApp group with just the people that volunteer for this challenge. So this group is just people that volunteer, that want to take action. That is. And there's no people sitting on the sidelines in this group. The only rule when you enter this WhatsApp group is you need to participate. You need to take action. If you can't take action that week, then you're removed from the group on Tuesday, and you could sit on the sidelines in the Facebook group until the next week, until the next revolution. So we are in this group, right? We are holding each other accountable for what we say that we want to accomplish in these next 7 days. We have a check-in in the morning on what our intentions are for that one particular day. We have a midday check-in of where we're at, where we're stuck at, if we need to pivot, what challenges we're facing. And then, we work together as a group to help each other out in those challenges. And then at the end of the day, I send out a poll to see where you're at in accomplishing your intentions for that day, whether it's 100%, 75, 50, 25, or 0, right? And if it's anything less than 100, I always ask the people in the group, like, what can we do today to prepare ourselves to have a higher number tomorrow? And then we do that the next day. And so this group is great because, first of all, it's all people that are willing to take action. We're all holding each other accountable. We help each other when we hit challenges, right? And when we accomplish something, like we have a win. Like the other day, we had someone hit 72-hour fast, and so we're all, we're complimenting them. That's inspiration for other people to get to a 72-hour fast or what have you. And so we're sharing the wins together. And on Sunday, we share the wins together. I announced in the big Facebook group, all the people that participated, and we just congratulate each other. So it's a really good community to get the ball rolling. And the community's free. The WhatsApp group is free. The only rule is you need to participate in the WhatsApp group.
Okay. And you can find all this on your website still?
Yes. The website right now is down, to be honest with you, but it'll be up by Monday.
Okay.
It's in maintenance mode. But yeah, everything is internalwork.com, and you can find that all there.
Okay. All right, cool. And so I have one question I ask every guest I have on here. So what are 3 key things you've learned and used along your journey?
That's a great question. What are 3 things that I have used along my journey? One is that I think is to realize that when you're going through those hard times and things are tough and things are, hard, is that to realize that everything happens for a reason. My mom used to drill this in my head, like I remember her coming to visit me when I was incarcerated. She's like, you know what? Everything happens for a reason. You're in here for a reason. And in that time, I was thinking, I'm in here because I did something wrong, not. And then later on down the line, I realized I'm in here because it's building me up. That's that other hit on the mallet, on that raw piece of metal. It wasn't because I did something. It's because it's building me up to something in the future. So one is everything happens for a reason, right? The second thing I would say is that look for the lessons in everything. Look for the lesson. I'm a true believer that everything in like life is our classroom. We are in the biggest classroom right now, and anything that happens to us, good or bad, there's a lesson to learn. In the most of the lessons are learned when things don't go our way. So look for the lessons in everything in life. We're being educated every single day. Every single minute. We just got to look for the lessons, and sometimes we don't look for those lessons. Our mind is focused on the problem. You know, our mind is focused on that thing we don't want to do. You know, for example, if I were to say, you know, look at that, think about a pink elephant in your room right now, right? Your mind is going to go and you're going to be thinking about that pink elephant in the room, you know? So instead of thinking about the problem, let's focus on the lesson of that situation. You know, what does that give us, right? Where can we learn from this situation? And the third thing, you know, is I'm bouncing around on two things here, but I think what's really at the top of my list is consistency. I think that's the key for anything you want in your life is consistency. You know, if you have a goal, if you have a vision, and you take that first step, it's all about being consistent in the work and taking those steps every single day. You know, like the saying goes, the journey of 1,000 miles is taking that first step, right? And then to get to that 1,000 mile mark, you have to be consistently taking those steps every single day. So whatever it is you want to do in your life, whatever you want to accomplish, you have to be consistently doing that thing, whatever those habits are, whatever that thing is, it needs to be consistent. Because once you stop, consistency is progression. You know, you're taking those steps, you're progressively climbing that hill, you're progressively walking towards that goal in your life. But once you stop, once you stay stagnant, you're not progressing anymore. You're stagnant, right? And so just like a tree, you know, once it stops growing and it starts being stagnant, the next step is death. You know, it's going to start dying, right? So consistency in life, consistency in whatever you want to do. Keep taking that next best step.
That's great. They're three great lessons. I appreciate you sharing that. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Carlos, I appreciate you connecting with me and my listeners. And you know, I look forward to maybe connecting with you sometime down the road and we can get you back on here sometime. So
Sure, I'd
thank you.
love that. I thank you for having me here. I enjoyed it, and yeah, once again, thank you for having me here, and thank you for creating this platform and sharing the message. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're welcome.